Hi there, it's Jen from modernmedicinelady.com, and today is another Manifesting Monday, and we are going to talk about tarot today. So I am just going to see if there's a way that I can send an invitation. Okay. So I've done all of that, and what I wanted to do was I wanted to start by just taking a few minutes to breathe and really just let ourselves center and focus. And then I was going to talk a little bit about this full moon that's coming up in a couple of days. And then I was figuring I would talk a little bit about tarot as a tool for self-discovery versus tarot as a way of fortune telling, and basically my feelings about fortune telling and the idea of using tarot to predict stuff. And then I have my deck with me, and I figured we could pull some cards for anybody who wanted to jump on board and ask some questions. So, if you are in a comfortable place and you can close your eyes, let's just take a moment and let yourself breathe in relaxation and calmness, and breathe out any tension or worry, anything that's distracting you from being here right now. So just breathing in ease and breathing out any distractions. Breathing in calmness. And again, just breathing out anything that might be getting in the way of you being here in this space right now. And again, breathing in calmness and relaxation. And then sending it out beyond you, just extending that calmness around you. And just taking this time right now to breathe in relaxation and ease, breathing in calmness, and tuning in to whatever connection to source that you feel that you have, tuning into the divine and just letting yourself feel that connection. So I can see that there are a number of people who are on the call or on this stream today, on this blab. Unfortunately, I cannot see your names because I imagine either you are, you don't have a Twitter handle, or but for whatever reason, I can't see you. But so I don't know whether you have the ability to write in or ask me any questions, but the way that I like to work is you can send me a message and I will gladly answer some questions for you, particularly when it comes to pulling cards and doing some readings. But I was saying that I wanted to talk about a couple things before we got into readings. So the first thing I wanted to mention was to just give you a heads up about a couple things that are happening around the celestial bodies. And that is that on Friday, this Friday, 1:23 Eastern time on Friday morning, we're going to have a full moon in Scorpio. And most people, I think, sort of tend to think of Scorpio as probably one of the most intense emotional signs, and sort of that idea of the power of Scorpio. And Scorpio is, hey there, Michelle, welcome, welcome. So glad you're here. This is my friend Michelle, and she has created the most amazing natural bug spray that my pug Bob is absolutely drenched in right now as we are going into tick season. And her bug spray is blue bug spray with a B, capital L-O-U, bug spray. And Michelle, if you want to put your link on this chat for other people to see down in the send a message box, that would be awesome. Anyway, I was just talking about the full moon that's coming up and saying that with the full moon in Scorpio, the thing about Scorpio is that there's a really intense emotional depth to Scorpio. So when you have a full moon in Scorpio, it's kind of like shining a big spotlight or a big flashlight on what is going on underneath the surface and what is making your emotions, like what's making you tick. You know, what is influencing you? What is affecting you? Sorry, I'm just now, making a little bit of an adjustment with my computer. But what is making you tick? What is affecting you? And so a full moon in Scorpio is a time to do really deep emotional work. It's a time to do some really deep emotional clearing. And it's a time to get clear about what's going on for you and to shift patterns, to adjust things. It's also a good time. Excellent. Well, welcome. So glad you're here. And thank you so much for sharing your link. And I'm just going to pin that link, I believe. Yay. There. Okay. So for anybody who's curious, this bug spray is amazing. There's nothing toxic about it, and it's just as effective as using all that stuff that is nasty and toxic and poisonous. So I highly recommend checking it out. So anyway, getting back to talking about the full moon in Scorpio, with the full moon in Scorpio, it is an opportunity to reveal, to express, and to bring things that have been buried underneath the surface for you, and to bring them up and to speak your truth. Now, we also have a Saturn retrograde right now and also a Mars retrograde right now. And Mars retrograde is going to actually work in your favor with this full moon in Scorpio, because the Mars retrograde means that your natural, Mars being sort of the planet of aggression, assertion, expression, action. And so Mars left to its own devices can sometimes be a little hot-headed and kind of in your face. And Scorpio can be very intense and can have a stinger. So when talking about really deeply buried emotional things and talking especially about confrontation and dealing with issues that are going on in a relationship for a while, having Mars retrograde means that the energy is going to be more subdued than it would normally be, and you're going to be less quick to temper, and it's an opportunity to really be more introspective, to be calmer, to be more gentle, and also to use this retrograde Mars as a way to express feelings with more grace, with more ease, and not just, flying off the handle and kind of going off on something. So it's a good time to sort of think before you speak, but to really take a moment and think about where in your life would it be useful to speak your truth? Where do you need to make some amends? Where do you need to say, I'm sorry? Where would you benefit from doing some forgiveness work? And where are there relationships where there's a conflict brewing or a conflict that's been going on for a while that would really benefit from bringing things up to the surface and addressing them in a gracious way? So that is my spiel on the full moon in Scorpio that is coming up this Friday at 1:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So then the other thing I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about was just talking about the idea of using tarot as a tool for personal self-discovery and for personal transformation, as opposed to using the tarot as a way to fortune tell. And many years ago, when I was at a tarot symposium, there was this amazing woman, Thalassa, and she described sort of fortune telling, tarot fortune telling, as, you know, going to somebody, and most people are coming, when they're coming for readings, they're either coming for love or money. That is generally what most people are looking to get information about. That's most of the time. It's either relationships or it's finance or business or something, but some kind of component of one or the other of those. And then some of us are interested in health. Some of us are interested in spiritual development, but it often distills down to relationships or finance or business. Anyway, so she was talking about this idea of going and seeing the fortune teller, and the fortune teller looking at you and looking at the cards and saying, I see a tall, dark, you shall find a tall, dark cesspool and fall in. And I just love that, because so often when we're looking outside of ourselves for the answers, and we're looking for, when are we going to find our mate? When are we going to have $1 million? When is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? For one thing, it's just incredibly disempowering, because we're waiting for our life to happen, and we're not doing the things that we can do to make changes, and we're not asking what I think are the really pertinent and important questions, which is, what do I need to do in order to make this happen? What do I need to do in order to change myself so that I'm ready for a relationship, so that I'm ready to bring in more abundance, so that I'm ready to make things work in my life? So I think it's incredibly important to be looking at the tarot as a tool for self-examination, and looking at the future as likely streams and possibilities, and talking about the most likely directions that something is going to come in, as opposed to looking at it as this concrete fixed thing. And the way that I think about looking at the tarot in terms of thinking about the future is, I think about it in a really similar way to the way that a weather forecaster is going to look at weather patterns. A forecaster can look at the patterns that are coming, can look at the weather patterns and see the direction that it appears things are going, and can say, based on all this information, I can imagine or anticipate that this storm is coming in and will be arriving at this particular time, and this is the way that this is going to work. But even the best weather forecaster is going to acknowledge that this is not necessarily always going to be the way it's going to happen, because sometimes something will shift between the time that the forecast is put out there and the event actually happens. And so you can have a weather pattern that blows out to sea, or something that suddenly blows in and you're dealing with weather that you were not expecting. And I really believe that that is true when it comes to the tarot as well, in that the tarot is, or any kind of divination method, I can talk to you, or a good reader can talk to you about the likely directions that things are going in. However, there's always the possibility that you will make a different choice. You will make a choice that will affect the outcome, that you will opt for something completely different than what you originally were planning to do. And so there's a number of ways. Hi there, Sean. Welcome to my blab. I'm talking about tarot right now, and talking about, okay, bye-bye, Sean. Anyway, so there's a way in which we can imagine what is the likely outcome, but we can never say this is definitely what is going to happen. So, oh, hi, Vanessa. Welcome. So glad you could be here with me. Was talking briefly about the way that I approach tarot as a way of examining possibilities, as opposed to really saying this is the absolute definite thing that is going to happen. And what I will say is that, just as with a weather pattern, when you're looking at the possibilities with weather, there are, because of our choices, because of our behaviors, because of the things that we're already doing and our personality traits and stuff, there are often very likely directions, like there's dominant streams that the future is going to take based on all of the factors that are contributing to where stuff is going. And so sometimes it's easy to say, this is the most likely outcome coming down the pipe for you because of this, this, and this. However, if you make the decision to go in a different direction, if you make the decision to think about something in a different way, this is subject to change. And so when I started working with the tarot, I was working with it as a reader and was very fascinated with the idea of being able to predict outcomes and looking at where things were going and what was happening. And I was much more fascinated with that old school kind of fortune telling approach to it. And cards can be uncannily accurate. It's amazing how many times people can look at stuff and be like, and really say, because of the fact that things can be very likely, the cards can reflect that and mirror what is very likely. So when I was younger, I was very fascinated with that. But what happened for me was that as I kept doing readings and I kept working with people, what I kept finding, as I was saying, people were often coming for either questions in regards to love or relationships. And as they came and were talking to me in regards to love and relationships, what I noticed was that there was so much going on, and there were so many questions about how can I be in a better relationship? How can I be in do better with, oh, okay. Thank you, Vanessa. How can I be more effective in my work? And so what I started to discover was that the card readings were so much as they were a mirror for looking at what the work we needed to do with ourselves and the work that we could do with another, with the help of a facilitator. And what I found was that I started to ask the question, instead of, will I meet a tall, dark cesspool that I'm going to fall into? I started to ask the question instead, so why am I, or why are you continuously attracted to falling into tall, dark cesspools? And so we started to really spend time questioning and looking at the patterns and the tendencies to go in particular directions, and asking about, why is this behavior happening? Why am I doing this? Why am I inclined to continue to try this over and over and over again? And what I found was that as we use the tarot as a way to examine personal behavior and personal choices and examine beliefs and agreements that we've made, suddenly it opened up the door for reframing the way we were perceiving ourselves, reframing the way we were perceiving reality, and really having an opportunity to expand and grow and shift and change. And that's when, for me, the tarot got to be even more exciting than when I first started reading cards and I was telling people about, I was telling people based on sort of these predicting things and kind of taking stabs in the dark at what was going to be happening in the future, which could or could not sometimes be happening. So I think I've given you guys my wholly adequate spiel about using the tarot as a tool for personal transformation and self-discovery and growth versus using the tarot for fortune telling. So with that said, I have my deck in front of me, and I know that Michelle, you are here, and Vanessa is here, and I would love to pull some cards for you guys if you are interested. So whoever wants to, yes and yes. Okay, so Vanessa was the first one to jump on and say yes. So I'll do Vanessa, and then Michelle, I'll do you. So what I want you to be thinking about is, if you have a particular area that you want to be focusing on and a particular question that you want to ask. And since we've got only the two of you right now, I'm actually going to expand beyond a single card. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pull two cards, and I'm going to pull a card that's representing sort of the circumstance or the issue, what it is that you're needing to direct your attention towards, and what you want to be what is going on for you in regards to this issue. And then I want to pull a card to represent what you want to be aware of. Like, what is the point? What is the key? What is the clue You can say, if you want to say something, you can be thinking about the question right now, and I'll start pulling. And if you have any thoughts or ideas and you want to just jump in, go for it with leaving a comment there. So the second question the second card is, you're thinking, I'll do my thing. Excellent. So the first card that I'm getting is the Six of Swords, the Determination card. And this is a card, this is your classic fortune telling card of the, you're going to go on a long journey. And this really was traditionally the card of travel, the card of movement, the card of going on a journey. It is also, I call this the card of determination. When it is reversed, it is a lot about you coming into your own process. And I would say clearing the obstacles between you, within your own mindset and where you want to be going and what you want to be doing. And the way I look at this card is that each sword is representing a thought form or an idea, a belief. And the water represents your emotions, and the boat is sort of your resources and your resources and what you have to work with. So this is a card about getting very, very clear about what your goals are, what your vision is, and what your thoughts are, and what attitudes you want to be taking with you on this journey. Moving through the emotional process, moving through the waters of your emotions, of your dreams, of your subconscious, of your hopes and your fears, and moving towards the manifestation of your physical goal to get where you want to go. And so this is literally what has been on your mind all day. Cool. So this card is really saying, number one, Vanessa, you are in a period right now of your biggest challenge is getting through the mental hurdles that are in your, that are affecting you. And it's almost like, instead of thinking about, this is about, what do you want to bring in the boat with you? What do you deliberately want to carry with you? What ideas and thought forms do you want to take with you, as opposed to just randomly have sort of a suitcase packed with just random shit? And so it's very much about intention and choosing these 6 keywords of deliberate intent of what you're going to carry in this boat with you, so that you can get to where you want to go. Because determination is absolutely the essence of what is going on, of what is going on for you. And I mean, obviously, I know you. Yeah, 6 keywords would be, for example, I will give you an example because I've worked with this card a lot. And I actually use this card personally in my marriage, because I believe that having deliberate intent in what I want to be continuously bringing to my focus is really helpful. And so, for example, in my partnership, in my marriage, we have the words, we have God or spirit or the divine, whatever. So God, love, surrender, gratitude, play, and truth. And those words basically are the things that I could say that those words are also the core of my personal keywords for life. Like, those are sort of the bottom lines of what do I want to carry in my boat as I go on my personal journey. So when it comes to your business, and when it comes to your vision of where you're going with what you want to do and keeping your determination, the first step is getting clear about what are these qualities that you want to be taking with you in the boat. What do you want to pack in your bag, so that you're not just, you don't sort of get towards where you're going and go, oh my God, I forgot my toothbrush, I forgot my toothpaste, and I have this ridiculous sequin dress that's really not going to serve me at all. This is about very much, yes, gratitude, kindness, truth, generosity, love, and wisdom. Very, very, very good. And with those as your keys, with those as basically the things that you carry, I love you too. And with those as what you carry with you, it is really going to get you where you need to go. Okay, so that was the first card that was talking about the situation. Now the second card of sort of what do you want to be mindful of and what will help you in this is the Ten of Wands, which is the accomplishment card. It is also, I love to look at this as the card of accomplishment and look at this in terms of sometimes you got to schlep some pretty heavy stuff in order to get to your goal. But interestingly, both of these cards are about getting to your goal. This is a card more about the amount of effort and energy and action that you need to take in order to get where you're hoping to go. But it's also about the idea that I see this as a card about recognizing sometimes that what you perceive as a burden can be resources if you reallocate them, if you redirect them, and also if you ask for help. So I want to really make a plug for, while you're moving through this process, do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to put it out there and let people know what you need, and really let your friends, let your tribe, let the people that care about you know what it is that you need. And even sometimes allow total strangers to give you support. It never hurts to ask, because when you perceive yourself as being the only person with this bundle of sticks that you're carrying to your destination, it can feel really overwhelming, and it can feel, what Britt tells you, reallocated into, and delegation, that word, that this one is a reminder that delegation is a very, very good idea. And also just really, I see this as a card that's really a reminder that says, you can see that the cityscape is ahead, but there's a journey to get there. And that, and all of these sticks represent energy, represent strategy, represent activity, represent effort. And so sometimes the best thing you can do is look at all of this collective bundle and break it apart so that you can breaking things into manageable bite-sized chunks. So instead of trying to, instead of trying to think about the end game, long range goal, you want to be really thinking about these 10 steps. Like, how do you break it into incremental movements? So it's very much about this idea of, if you, for example, if you were going to be going on a trip and you decided that you wanted to go somewhere, you couldn't get there simply, oh, you are next week, haha. You couldn't simply just say, I am going to go on a trip. There would be a number of steps that would be involved in it, and you would need to break it down into those incremental steps. You would need to look online and if you were going to be flying, you would need to find the airline ticket. You might want to find the best price for the airline ticket. If you were going to stay in a hotel, you'd want to be finding the right hotel. If you were going to be driving, you'd want to go and get a triptych so that you had a sense of the driving. You'd need to be thinking about preparing. Need to be thinking about what kinds of things you'd want to be bringing with you. And each one of these things, one little incremental thing after another, would be leading you to your ultimate goal. But just imagining yourself traveling is not going to get you there and could be very overwhelming. But when you break it down into one step after another, the next thing you know, you've traveled, you're where you belong, and and then suddenly you are able to go to the next step, the next step, the next step. So I really see this card of accomplishment as really talking about the way to accomplishment is very much by breaking things down into incremental steps. So have a great time traveling, by the way. And are you going on a buying trip by any chance? And this is not me being psychic. This is just me. Yeah. Well, I hope you have a blast. Okay. So, and Vanessa, I'm imagining that made sense for you? Ah, thank you. Um, Excellent. Was there any other question you had in regards to it? Was there anything else that you were wondering that I didn't cover? Oh, I blew your mind. That's really awesome. Tell your friends and family. Oh, you're traveling to Seattle. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Michelle is traveling to Seattle for the artist gathering. Oh, have a blast, you traveling ladies, you. I'm not traveling until mid-May when I'm going to Transform in Atlanta, which is Pamela Bruner's really big 3-day event, which is rockin'. And I am totally, totally pumped to be going and doing that. So, oh, you're going to Arkansas. Excellent. I imagine this time of year, Arkansas must be beautiful. And also, the other thing about Arkansas is that if you're a rock hound, Arkansas is where it is at. And there are caves in Arkansas where you can go and you can go mine. Oh, fantastic. Yes. And Vanessa is an amazing, amazing interior designer. And she is just about to open up an incredible store in Portland, Maine that we're all very excited about. Yeah, Vanessa, if you want to put your link, your website URL onto into the box, and then I will happily pin it. Oh yes, that sounds awesome. Okay, so I'm just shuffling cards again. And Michelle, I am going to pull some cards for you. So, same game. You get to think about what it is that you need to be concerned or what you're trying to sort of sort out and work on, what you're thinking about right now. It's my deck. It's so old. I've been working with this deck for years now. And it's got, like, there's some cards where there's one card that my nephew, when he was a baby, he was like 2 and now he's 20. And he grabbed the Knight of Swords card because the guy's on a motorcycle and he took it and he started chewing on the corner because he was obsessed with motorcycles when he was a little guy. So, I always know when I'm coming up to that particular card because it has the chewed on corner for the Knight of Swords, or as he would refer to it when he was that age, the Mokanah card. So, okay, Michelle, let's look and see what we've got. I always love Mokanah as a description for motorcycle. I love how little babies too, they come up with the best like words to describe things. Okay. So I'm pulling one card to represent what we want to be aware of or what is going on. And then I'm going to pull another card for this is the direction you need to focus your attention on. Okay. Eight of Pentacles, improvement. This is one of those cards where it's about learning, and it's about repetition, making things better and better and better and better, and very much about the mastery of something through the repetitive effort that is going on making it, and how each time around there's more efficiency, each time around there is more ease, each time you figure out sort of how to do things in a more effective and efficient way. I know, knowing that you have spent the weekend dealing with bottling bug spray and that you are dealing with that, I think this card could not be more incredibly accurate and perfect, because I think this is really also about the idea of automation, the idea of establishing effective systems, and the way that you can be really getting clearer and clearer and clearer about where the bugs are in the system. Ha ha, get it? Anyway, where the bugs are in the system, and where there's time sucks, where there's energy sucks, where things are falling apart. And so my sense is that the formula is spot on. You've got your formula figured out. You've got something going really great with the formula. There may be one or two additional ingredients, or changes or shifts in the ingredients that could end up happening over time. But the formula, the foundation of the formula is great. But the way that you're putting this together and the way that you're manufacturing it in artisanal batches, and you're manufacturing it in a way that is sort of like, it's for a much smaller business than what this is going to be. And so a lot of what you're up against right now is really figuring out how to automate and how to systematize so that you can do all of this in a much more effective and much more efficient way. And I think what's happening for you right now is that you are probably coming up against the wall of going, I'm outgrowing my system. I'm outgrowing what has been working for me. And my sense is you are going to be needing to hire some help very, very soon. Like, if you don't already, maybe you already have someone, you need more. But my sense is, and maybe what's been going on is you've been sort of relying on the kindness of friends and family to sort of come and help you. And my sense is that you're going to need people who can consistently be showing up, like around 10 hours a week, 5 to 10 hours a week to start with, but that you basically need other people who are guaranteed to be showing up week in, week out, so that you can be continuing to produce and make what you need to be making. But I see this as really a card that's very much a positive card for you. Very go ahead. It's really is a green light card saying you're good. You just are going to continue to learn how to improve this and make this smoother and smoother and smoother, so that your profit margins are even better, and your opportunity to do this in an effective and even more efficient way is happening for you. So that's the first card. And then the second card is the Two of Wands, which is the Dominion card. And this actually really reinforces something that you and I kind of touched on when we saw each other last, which is the idea of sometimes you have to create a container, and you have to create boundaries and restrictions in order, excuse me, my smoothie just decided to come back and visit. Sometimes you have to create a container, and you have to create boundaries and restrictions in order to manifest your vision and in order to manifest your goal. And this is a card about making one choice and focusing on that one direction or that one choice, so that you have a container in order for your resources and your success to amass and to accumulate. And it's sort of like, I think of it as, it's like in order to have your herds kind of contained, or in order to have the parameters of your harvest contained, it's about defining the territory and defining the ground so that there's a container in which things can be held. So This is a lot of times is a card that comes up when it's about letting go of one identity or letting go of one particular focus in order to really direct your attention towards the one thing that you want to be achieving and directing yourself towards. And as I had mentioned to you, when I first started working in tattooing, I went through a period for many, many years where I gave up all of the other ways that I could be focusing on getting myself out into the world. And I exclusively focused on offering tattooing as a healing art and marketing the tattooing and doing nothing but that. And in that way, because I was concentrating all my effort in that one arena, I was able to grow it to a point where at this point I'm able to come back and do more of the intuitive work outside of tattooing, outside of the venue of tattooing. But this is really a card about that idea of putting your resources towards the one thing. So it's almost the irony of it is kind of like about putting all your eggs in one basket, because when you spread your eggs into two baskets, in this particular case, you're not going to get as much impact as you do when you put everything together. It's like you're going to get exponential impact by continuing to focus on what you're doing. So knowing what I know about your situation, these two cards feel profoundly validating to me, and they feel very, very much like you're really on the right track. You're really doing what you need to do. Just keep on doing what you do. Don't doubt yourself, and don't question whether for right now, giving yourself permission to just keep the focus on what it is that you want to be focused on is reasonable, and like that's the purpose, that's the point right now. So I just really want to encourage you to just keep on keeping on and doing what you're doing and focusing on what you're focusing on, because that is clearly these cards really, I think, really reinforce and support that vision. So I would say just keep up the great work, because you are totally on track. And you are so very welcome. So now that I've pulled some cards for both of you, as I mentioned, I can see that there's a bunch of other people who are on this call and who are watching, but who are not able to, I cannot see you. So I don't know whether, I think you need to register or sign into Blab in order for me to see you. But then in that case, if you do sign into Blab and you want to ask a question or you'd like me to do a reading for you, I would be more than happy to do that. So, but in the meantime, Vanessa or Michelle, do either of you have any questions regarding either the readings that I just did for you guys, and or about the tarot in general, and or about how to work this Scorpio full moon to your best advantage? Awesome. I'm so glad they were super clear. Oh, you missed the part about the moon. Okay, well then, let me tell you about the moon. So as I was saying earlier, when I first jumped onto the call, we are going to have a full moon in Scorpio, and it is going to be reaching the pinnacle of fullness at 1:23 a.m. on Friday morning. And the full moon in Scorpio is a moon that is all about sort of shining. Oh, and sorry, I just noticed Michelle's comment. I'm so glad you're grateful. It was such a pleasure to read for you, and you are so very welcome. So anyway, in regards to the moon and to the full moon in Scorpio, the way I like to think of it is it's like shining a big spotlight on your deepest emotional stuff. So Vanessa, particularly for you, with the idea of really, really getting clear about what you want to be carrying with you, and how you want to be using your determination very intentionally and very deliberately. The full moon in Scorpio is a really, really good time for you to kind of be putting your sword into, or putting a stake into the sand and sort of like claiming what is going to work for you. It is also a very good time for examining the conflicts that have been in our way, and the things that maybe we have not been speaking our truth about, and basically using the energy. Yeah, you are, absolutely, and what's best for your kid. And so you can use this full moon in Scorpio is going to be a time where you can really, where all of that stuff is going to come up to the surface. But because we have a Mars retrograde, you're going to be less likely to lose your temper and to sort of become a hothead as you would if it was Mars, and if we had a direct Mars and we had this full moon in Scorpio. So this is a good time to sort of be airing grievances, but in a gracious way. So it's a good idea to be taking some time and really meditating and thinking and considering, what are you feeling, and sort of doing and expressing yourself and confronting, but more in a very, very deliberate, very measured, very calm, sort of that kind of way that, when somebody is just standing in their truth and standing in their power and expressing what is just true for them without a lot of emotional backing, sort of that way that in some ways that sort of calm, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work for me, is a lot of times way more effective, and also can sometimes, affect somebody even more deeply than when we're really like, that's not going to work for me. When we can be in that really like, just, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work for me. That there's that way, that calmness and that ability to just really hold our ground often will get us way further and brings about better results. Because for one thing, whoever we're dealing with is not going to be basically in a power struggle with our emotional reaction. Because I think so often people get caught up in power struggles with each other's emotions, where we're reacting to each other's emotions. So, yeah, it's a total waste. Absolutely. Wow, it's amazing how you, Michelle and Vanessa, looking at what's going on for you guys, how you guys are like, oh yeah, and Vanessa, having a family member who is not always in your world is, I think for most of us is is okay, great. I will not continue to talk about it. Yeah. Yeah. So, Vanessa, can you hear me, or do you have a headset on? Okay, great. Anyway, something that can be very helpful, and something that can be very, very helpful, and I have that video that I had done a little while ago, which was the tapping video for dealing with difficult people. And then I also had another tapping video that I did recently that was the tapping video for dealing with people when they're acting like jerks. And I think that one thing that can be incredibly helpful is before going into a confrontational situation. And with this full moon in Scorpio, the thing is that Scorpio moon's going to bring our emotional stuff up. So we really want to hold on to our center and do things that will help us to be more calm and more relaxed and feel more soothed, because without doing that, it's really easy to sort of fall into that emotional depth that the Scorpio moon and just the nature of Scorpio has. So something that can be really powerful is to use tapping and to go through the rounds and to actually speak your truth. Just, put yourself in a room by yourself and tell the person the stuff that you need to tell them. And don't censor it. Don't bother. Don't worry about how you're saying it. Start by just, and start by tapping on what's really driving you crazy about the situation. Tapping on the stuff that is just really affecting you. Then tapping on what you wish could be a possibility, like, and maybe even inviting that person to the better possible outcome, and really giving yourself a chance to just really practice. And as you tap, you're going to notice that the emotional charge is probably going to decrease and decrease and decrease until you reach a point where you can be expressing your needs from a place of greater calmness, greater ease, and maybe even start having a new shift or a perspective, or suddenly come up with ideas that didn't even occur to you about stuff that you could offer, that you could ask for, that you could invite. And I also just want to say that lately I've really been thinking about two things in terms of frames or reframes around how to work with relationships. One is to think about nearly everything. Hi there, Amber, welcome. I've been talking about tarot and pulling some cards, and right now I was just talking about relationships and working with challenging people as we come into this full moon in Scorpio on Friday. And what I was saying is that thinking in terms of invitation, sometimes in the idea of inviting somebody to a possibility, inviting them to an engagement, to engage in an activity, inviting them to consider the possibility of doing something in a particular way. So that's sort of like offering things as an invitation. And then the other thing that I've noticed with myself that's especially effective is, instead of telling myself to do something, to find a way to frame it as a question, so that I am able to come to it in a way that when I'm telling myself to do something, I'm going to generally have some form of rebellion. But if I ask it as a question, I'm much more likely to be able to feel open to a possibility. So for example, I think I might have mentioned this in a couple of weeks ago, but I was having a challenge where when I would take the dog out at night, I was tending to leave the door ajar, just barely open, but just a little bit ajar. And it was definitely making my husband rather uncomfortable. And he kept on asking me, what is it going to take for you to shut the door? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I have no idea, because I'm not noticing it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not getting it. I just keep on leaving the door open. And at a certain point, what it occurred to me that I needed to do was I needed to ask the question, is the door closed? So I took a label maker and I wrote, is the door closed? And I just put it up near the leash, the dog leash, because it was whenever I was bringing the dog in and putting the leash back up that I would forget to close the door. And by seeing that question, I then checked to see if the door is closed, and it's good. If I had put a sign on the door that said, shut the door, I don't think I would have nearly the effective impact that I've had by having the question, is the door closed? And I think that there is a way that we can be asking ourselves this kind of a question in all kinds of aspects of our life, in all kinds of areas, that instead of telling ourselves to do something, is there a way that we can ask ourselves a question that will generate a similar result or the same result? So I offer that up. So Amber, I have been pulling some tarot cards. Would you be interested in me pulling a card for you? You're not sure. Okay, well, one thing I will tell you, since you just jumped on a little while ago, is that I am not a fortune teller, and I do not use cards to predict the future. So it's not like I'm going to pull a card and I'm going to tell you that you are going to, that something is going to happen to you, or that you're going to have 3 kids, or that, the person of your dreams is going to show up, that the person of your dreams is going to show up in your life. That the way that I work with tarot cards is that I use them as an opportunity for you to think about what you want to be considering in your life, and how maybe you could examine stuff that's going on for you in order to be able to approach it in a more effective and better way. So, if you're feeling unsure about stuff that's going on, if you've been feeling okay. So what I'd like you to do then, Amber, is just to be thinking about if there's something in particular that's been confusing or that you've been trying to, work on and sort out in your life. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull a card for you about that to just give you some guidance about that. And I will also say that any fortune teller that tells you that they can tell you what the future holds is full of BS. And the reason for that is because we have free will and we have the ability to make choices. And because we have the ability to make choices, we are able to change the future. And so anytime somebody tells you this is definitely, okay, well then, dogma eat dogma, whatever. So anyway, it is not particularly effective to do readings or to be telling what the future holds. I know. Hey, dogma eat dogma, this is not the appropriate place for you to be. God bless you. Go away. How do you block the member? Okay, thank you. I've never had to block anybody before, but my God, he was an asshole. Anyway. But the point of that was you can't predict the future. The future is basically going to be, the future is going to be the future is going to be what it's going to be based on the choices we make in the day. So Amber, I'm going to pull a card for you. Yes, definitely like a fruit fly. So, Amber, the card that came up for you is the Fool card. And the Fool card is a card about being at a point in your life where probably there's a lot of change that you're on the verge of. And in a lot of ways, there are some really big choices in front of you where it's like, do I take the risk? Do I take the chance? Do I go after what it is that I want to do? And the way I think of the Fool card is that it's about trusting your gut, trusting your instinct, listening to what's going on in your heart, and then taking that leap of faith. It's sort of that idea of when you take that leap, your wings appear. When you step off the cliff, the bridge rises up to meet you. And so there's a certain amount of being willing to risk and being willing to follow what feels right to you, even if it looks really scary. So the Fool card is a card that's a lot about feel the fear, but do it anyway. So I would say from this card that there are some big choices in front of you and there's some exciting possibilities in front of you. And if you've been doubting yourself and your ability to do this, I just want to say you've got this card is a card that indicates that you've got what it takes to make it happen. And that if anything, it's like you need to trust that you have the intelligence, that you have the wisdom, that you have the creativity, and that you also have the common sense and the experience to understand how to make this work. and that you might not necessarily always recognize how smart you are, how bright you are, how capable you are, that you might sort of be afraid that you're going to make a fool of yourself, or afraid that you're not going to be totally on track. And this is a card that's saying, is really saying that, you know, you got a lot more going for you than you might even think. But also, it's a card that's like, it's about that willingness to make mistakes, the willingness to be silly, the willingness to kind of like, you know, fall on your face and maybe not always look perfect. Because I saw this meme the other day that I absolutely... No, it doesn't mean you're foolish at all. Not at all. It really means that you have to have an innocence and a willingness to try in order to go for your dreams and in order to get where you want to go. And that there's a certain kind of, you have to be willing to be a beginner again if you want to go after anything new. And I saw this meme the other day that I love, that I think really describes this, is that forgive yourself for not knowing what you haven't learned yet. You know, it's like we live in this culture that has this stupid idea that everybody's supposed to be an expert before they even start something. And the thing is, like, if you're thinking of trying something brand spanking new that you've never done before, chances are you're going to fall on you're going to make a couple mistakes. But if you can think about mistakes as feedback, as information, as a learning opportunity, as a way to grow, and as a way to get better at what you're doing, then you're going to get to where you want to go. But if you're looking at it as like, oh my God, if I make even one mistake, I'm a fuck up, I can't do it, you're never going to get anywhere. I mean, it's like you think about Edison and the light bulb, and my understanding is that he tried, and if anybody has the actual, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And the thing is with Edison, like, he experimented with more than 100 light bulbs before he came up with the one that worked. If he had decided, even at the 5th light bulb or the 6th light bulb or the 50th light bulb, if he just went, fuck it, this is too hard, I can't possibly do it, you know, this is clearly, it was a stupid idea, I can't get there, we would not have light bulbs. Like, we would not, who knows what would be in the world right now. But because he had the courage to just keep on showing up and going, you know what, I'm learning. And so every single time he used something or did something that didn't work, what he was learning was what didn't work. And he was able to say, oh, so what I have learned from this experiment is that when you put this and this together, it doesn't result in this. So the Fool card is really an opportunity to do what you need to do in order to learn and to grow so that you can get to where you want to go. So I don't know whether you're contemplating the possibility of going back to school, or you're thinking about some kind of a new job or a new possibility or something. But my sense is this is an opportunity right now in your life for you to really let yourself be a student again. Let yourself put yourself out there and try something new. And even if you look like, you know, even if you look silly, even if you look like a beginner for a little while, we all have to look like beginners for a while before we get really comfortable with what we're doing. So, Amber, did that make sense to you? Awesome. Awesome. Do you have any other questions in regards to that? I've been told that before. Part of it is that I ask for, I tune into the angels, and I tune into the divine presence, and I say, okay, let me do this good and clean, and let me do this the best, you know, let me do this for the best possible outcome. You're going back to school in the fall. Yeah. So, okay, I want to share something with you that one of my absolute favorite teachers that I've ever had in my entire life told me, and he just passed. He just died a little while ago. So but his name was Jerry, and Jerry Handspicker, and he was just this remarkable human being. And he was a UCC minister, and his specialty was conflict management, but he also was a specialist in communication. And what Jerry said when I was in my first semester in graduate school, he said that there is this process that you go through when you're learning. And at first, when you're learning something, you kind of feel like you got it. You kind of feel like you have a sense of it. You kind of feel like you kind of understand what's happening, and you're sort of riding along. And then all of a sudden you hit this point after you've been working on it for a little while, where suddenly it's like you start to hit you start to really get to that point where your wheels are getting in the mud, and you start to hit the muck, and you start to hit the hard stuff, and stuff starts to get really confusing. It starts to get really uncomfortable, and it starts to get hard, and it's not fun, and it's not easy. And a lot of times what happens at this point is you start to feel really stupid. You start to feel like a real fool, and you start to feel like, what the hell am I doing? Why did I even think of doing this? So the thing about this is that this is the stage and this point right before you're going to understand it. The human brain works this way. You know, if going to school, starting a family, obviously is a very, very important thing. But I guess I would say, if going to school is going to allow you the possibility of being able to provide for your family more effectively and to be able to have a better career and stuff like that, the family will find its way. And, I mean, in general, unless you're like 37 or 38 and your biological clock is really going off and you need to make babies before your eggs dry up, I would say probably you have some time. And if you put time into really focusing on being in school, it will allow you to be even more ready and more prepared for parenting in a couple years. But so to finish what I was going to say, when you hit that wall, that is the way. Yeah, that is the way. Vanessa's saying she's glad she didn't have her kid until she was 35. But when you hit that wall of confusion, what is really important to remember is that you are right on the verge of understanding, and that the mind does this thing where before it understands or grasps stuff, it has a tendency to feel very confused, and sort of everything is just kind of like, what is going on? So when you go back to school, if you go back to school, and assuming that's what you decide you want to do, which certainly you can choose one, family or school, but if you decide to go back to school, or even if you decide to have a family, when you hit that wall, where you hit that point where you're like confused and wondering, oh my God, why did I decide to do what I decided to do? Hold on, hold tight, keep on going, because chances are it's the darkest hour before dawn, and you're right on the verge of really getting it and understanding it at a whole other level. And the thing that's so sad is that so many people on this, people in the world give up when they hit this place of confusion instead of pushing through. And so they never, ever get to where they figure the stuff out, or where they learn what they want to learn, or they master what they want to master. So whether you opt to go with the family or you opt to go back to school, just when you reach that place where you're like, should I have made the other choice? Hold on to the choice that you made. And I also want to say that when it comes to the Fool, in a way, you can choose either one. There's no wrong way to do this. It's just two different possibilities and two different paths. And so really the question is, what is going to make you happiest right now? Chances are you're not divided 50-50. Like, even if it means that there's a part of you. And so one way to make the decision too, you want both. Well, fortunately, life is generally long, so you can probably have both. It's just a matter of making the decision of which one you want first. So, and like I said, as long as you're not like in your late 30s and you're at a point where your fertility is starting to come into question, you know, you have some time to work these details out. And from the look of your picture, I'm imagining that you're not 37 or 38. So anyway, and I will say that when it comes to the Fool card, it's also, sometimes you just get to choose. You go down a path and there's no wrong way to do it. There's no wrong choice. There's no wrong answer. It's just two different choices and each one will result in something. But my sense is, I will say this, I think for a lot of women that if you have babies first, it's a lot harder to get back to school. Whereas if you go to school, it's, you know, whereas going to school, you can spend a couple years in school and then have babies, you know, in a way that it's like being in school is not going to stop you from having babies, but at least in the longer run. But a lot of times having little kids will keep you from being able to do much of anything else for a little while at least. But I will also say that I am not a mom, nor do I play one on TV. I am a fairy godmother. So I am not necessarily the best expert on this, but this is just my observations as somebody watching other women who've had kids. So I know that this is a hard thing. But the other thing I was going to say is one of the tricks I use for making a decision is play out both scenarios in your head, that you decide that you're going to go to school and really feel into your body. How do you feel about it? Does it feel like the right choice? Then do the exact same thing of imagining yourself being in a part, you know, making babies and having a family right now. And, you know, and how does that feel? And one of them is probably going to feel better to you. And I would say go with the one that feels better for right now. Okay, so that is all. So I think I've probably chatted your ears off. And so I'm coming sort of towards the end. Well, obviously I've come around to the top of the hour and sort of flipping over. And so what I'm going to do is you're so very welcome, Ember. I'm so glad you jumped on and I'm so glad you took the risk. Yeah, Vanessa, have a great night. Have a blast traveling to Arkansas. So I'm just going to pull one more card as a final sort of reminder for all of us who are on this call, particularly for the people who are here and not signed on, as a sort of what you want to be mindful of. And this is the World card, which in many ways is if the Fool is the beginning, the World is the end, and then the World is the beginning again. And this is a card that is just really saying, what do you want to create? The world is your oyster. There are unlimited possibilities available, and it really is all about what do you want to make of it? What do you want to do? And really thinking about how do you want to travel on this? How do you want to travel on this world? Where do you want to go with it? I love this card. This is one of my favorite cards. It is a card that it is just all about possibility, all about all of the different ways that we can be in the world and that we can experience just so many different choices and options and opportunities. So I just really see this as an extremely favorable card. So as we all come into this full moon in Scorpio on Friday, it will be a fantastic time to just kind of take a few minutes and really just tune into your heart's desire and ask yourself, what do I want? What do I really want? And I will say that on my YouTube channel, which is where all of these videos for all of my blabs are hosted, but I also have a lot of other videos that are hosted on my YouTube channel as well. I have a tapping video that is specifically for tapping on what do I want? And it's a really great way to just tune into your heart's desire and let yourself feel into it and move through it. So, to all of you who decided to join me this evening, I am so grateful you're here. If you are interested in learning more about the kind of work that I do, please go to my website, www.modernmedicinelady.com. And I also just launched a really cool thing. I have this quiz that is for what kind of empath are you? What's your empathic type? And if you go to modernmedicinelady.com, you will find the link for that. And when you do take that quiz, you'll have an opportunity to sign up for my newsletter, and you will receive a really, really, I gotta say, sparkly, spectacularly beautiful report on empathic types with some suggestions and affirmations, and it is a labor of love. I'm really proud of it. I must say, it just was something very, very satisfying to create, and I'm very, very excited to be able to share it with you. And all you need to do is go to my website, www.modernmedicinelady.com, and go click on the What is my empathic type, do the quiz, and then you'll have an opportunity to sign up so that you can get my really beautiful report and really start thinking about how to live in this world as a highly sensitive, empathic woman. So thank you guys for being here. Such a pleasure. Michelle, Vanessa, and Amber, I thank you so much. And Amber, thank you for teaching me how to block jerks. You guys have a great night. Peace. Thanks, Michelle.